Hey there, and welcome back to Understanding Depression. I'm really glad you're here. Today's episode might feel a little personal, because for many of us, social media is deeply woven into our everyday lives. Whether it's Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, or Facebook, we often use these platforms to connect, share, learn, and sometimes just escape. But here's the question we're exploring today. Can social media actually cause depression? And if so, how? Now, before we get into the science and stories, a gentle reminder, this isn't about blaming platforms or demonizing technology. Social media can be powerful, even healing, in the right context. But like anything else, its effects on mental health are complex and worth unpacking. So, I invite you to listen mindfully. Grab your coffee or tea, settle in, and let's explore this together. Let's rewind to just a couple of decades ago. Before smartphones and viral trends, our social interactions were mostly face-to-face, or maybe over the phone. Then came the explosion of social media. Platforms like Facebook launched in 2004, Instagram in 2010, TikTok in 2016, and since then, our world has shifted dramatically. According to Pew Research, about 72% of adults use social media regularly. Among teens, that number is even higher, with some studies suggesting 95% of teens are online almost constantly. At the same time, mental health challenges, especially depression and anxiety, have seen a noticeable increase, particularly among adolescents and young adults. So the big question researchers started asking was, is there a connection? In the next segment, we'll dive into the psychology of how social media interacts with our brains. Stay with me. Let's talk about what happens in your brain when you scroll. Social media platforms are designed to be engaging, even addictive. Every swipe, like, or comment is a tiny reward, and behind that experience is something very real: dopamine. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter that helps us feel pleasure and satisfaction. It's triggered by anything that makes us feel good: delicious food, a funny meme, or that red notification badge that says someone liked your photo. Every time you get positive feedback on social media, it's like a little hit of dopamine. Now, this isn't necessarily bad. Our brains are wired to seek out pleasure. But the problem is when we start depending on social media for those emotional boosts. Think about it. If you post something and don't get likes or comments, how do you feel? For many, especially younger users, this can spark feelings of rejection or self-doubt. Over time, the brain starts to link online validation with self-worth, which is a fragile and often toxic connection. Even worse, the lack of engagement can feel like punishment. That creates a cycle where we keep posting, keep checking, keep refreshing, chasing that next tiny dose of feeling okay. And behind the screen, it's not just dopamine at play. There's also cortisol, the stress hormone. Constant notifications, fear of missing out, FOMO, or getting into heated comment threads can raise anxiety levels and keep your body in a state of alertness. In short, social media taps into our brain's reward systems and our stress responses. This creates a psychological environment that can feel exhausting, overwhelming, and yes, in some cases, depressive. But this isn't just theory. It's backed by growing research, which we'll explore more in upcoming sections. Coming up next, let's dive deeper into comparison culture and why seeing everyone's highlight reel might be quietly hurting us. Don't go anywhere. Now let's talk about one of the most common emotional traps of social media: comparison. You open Instagram and see someone your age traveling the world, getting engaged, buying a house, launching a business, or just looking effortlessly perfect in every photo. Meanwhile, you might be sitting in bed, unshowered, wondering why your life doesn't look that shiny. That sinking feeling? That's comparison, and it can be brutal. The truth is, social media often presents a filtered reality. Most people only share their best moments, the highlights. We rarely see the full story, the anxiety behind the smile, the loneliness behind the travel photos, the arguments before the proposal. But our brains don't always make that distinction. Psychologists call this upward social comparison. It's when we compare ourselves to people we think are doing better than us. And over time, it can lead to feelings of inadequacy, self-criticism, and even hopelessness, especially if we already struggle with low self-esteem or emotional vulnerability. Then there's FOMO, the fear of missing out. Seeing others hang out without you, achieve things you haven't, or enjoy experiences you can't access can trigger deep feelings of exclusion. FOMO isn't just annoying. For some, it can fuel anxiety, disconnection, and sadness. It's ironic, isn't it? The platforms that were meant to connect us often end up making us feel more alone, especially when our lives don't seem to measure up to the illusion we see on screen. But remember, social media isn't the villain here. It's the way we interpret and emotionally respond to what we see that makes the difference. And yes, that's something we can work on. Next up, we'll look at how online validation shapes our identity and emotional resilience, especially among teens and young adults. Stay with me, j'ai dit performer. Let's take a closer look at something subtle but powerful: online validation. When we post something, a photo, a thought, a video, and it gets liked, shared, or commented on, we feel noticed, acknowledged. It can feel like a digital pat on the back. But what happens when that validation becomes the only way we feel good about ourselves? Especially for young people who are still developing their identity, social media often becomes a mirror, reflecting back an image of who they are based on what others approve of. And slowly, self-worth can become entangled with the number of likes, follows, or shares. This is where things get tricky. Because when validation is external, coming from others, it's unstable. It fluctuates. And with that, so does how someone might feel about themselves. A teammate feel amazing when a post goes viral, but crushed the next day when a different one flops. That kind of emotional roller coaster takes a toll. Research shows that people who are more invested in social media feedback tend to have lower self-esteem and higher levels of depressive symptoms, particularly when they base their self-image on online responses. And it's not just about public praise or rejection. Sometimes, it's about being ignored. You post something meaningful, and it gets nothing. No response. That silence can feel louder than 1,000 comments, and it can lead to overthinking, insecurity, and even withdrawal from social interactions offline. This constant need to perform for attention, to stay relevant, to please others, can lead to burnout and emotional numbness. But here's the thing: your value isn't in a number. It's not in a metric. It's in your story, your growth, your real relationships, the ones that don't depend on filters or trends. In the next section, we'll dive into one of the darkest corners of social media: cyberbullying. What happens when people use the internet not to connect, but to harm? Stick around. This is an important one. Let's talk about something that's heartbreaking, but real: cyberbullying. Unlike traditional bullying, which usually happens in physical spaces like schools or neighborhoods, cyberbullying happens in digital spaces, on screens, in comment sections, in private messages, and group chats. And the scary part? It's relentless. It doesn't end when the school bell rings or when someone walks away. It follows people home, into their bedrooms, their phones, and even into their dreams. Victims of cyberbullying report feeling helpless, anxious, and deeply ashamed. And because it's happening online, often invisibly, adults or friends may not even realize it's happening. And what enables this kind of behavior? Anonymity. Many social media platforms allow users to create fake profiles or comment without revealing their identity. And for some people, This makes it easier to say things they would never dare say face to face. Behind a screen, empathy often gets lost, and without accountability, cruelty grows. Insults, harassment, threats, body shaming, outing someone's private info. These aren't just online drama. They're deeply traumatizing events that can lead to serious emotional harm. Multiple studies have shown a link between experiences of online bullying and higher levels of depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation, especially among teens and marginalized communities. And even if you're not the direct target, witnessing cyberbullying or hate speech online can leave you feeling unsafe, anxious, or even hopeless about humanity. But here's the hopeful truth. We can create safer digital spaces. We can speak up, report, block, educate, support victims, and most importantly, remember there's a real human on the other side of that screen. Coming up next, we'll explore the impact of doom scrolling, the habit of consuming endless negative news, and how it can quietly drain your mental health. Stay with me, we're not done yet. After everything we've talked about, the downsides, the risks, the emotional weight, you might be wondering, is social media all bad? And the answer is, absolutely not. Social media can be a lifeline for people who feel alone in their struggles, for communities that are marginalized in real life, for those seeking hope, help, or healing. Let's talk about the upside. There are countless stories of people finding community online. Support groups for mental health, chronic illness, grief, parenting, LGBTQ+ identity, recovery, and more. People who may have felt isolated offline are able to find others who get it, who say, "Me too, I've been there." That sense of belonging? It's powerful. Social media can also serve as a platform for awareness, breaking stigma, sharing personal journeys with depression, educating others, and reminding people they're not alone. You might be here today because something like that brought you hope. It can also spark activism, creativity, and growth. From sharing poems to launching mental health campaigns, people are using social media to spread light, not just likes. And let's not forget, for those with limited access to therapy or real-life support, sometimes a motivational post, a kind comment, or a mental health thread can be the first step toward healing. So no, the answer isn't to delete all your apps or reject technology. The answer is mindful use. It's about creating boundaries, curating your feed, and noticing how you feel after you scroll. It's about choosing what feeds your soul, not just your screen. In the next part, we'll dive into what you can actually do to protect your mental health while still staying online. Practical tips coming up. You won't want to miss it. Let's talk solution. If social media is here to stay, and let's be real, it is, then how do we use it without letting it control our emotions or erode our well-being? Here are some practical, research-informed ways to engage more mindfully with social media. 1. Curate your feed intentionally. Unfollow or mute accounts that make you feel less than, anxious, or angry, even if it's someone you know. Follow creators who uplift, educate, or genuinely bring you joy. Your feed should feel like a garden, not a battlefield. Set time limit. Use screen time tools or app timers to limit how long you scroll each day. Research shows that reducing usage, even to just 30 minutes a day, can significantly reduce symptoms of depression and loneliness. Notice your emotional reactions. Check in with yourself. After being online, do you feel energized, drained, triggered, inspired? Self-awareness is key. If you feel worse after scrolling, it's okay to take a break. Engage. Don't just consume. Passive scrolling tends to be more harmful than active interaction. Try commenting, messaging a friend, or joining supportive communities. Connection is more meaningful than comparison. Practice digital detoxes. Pick one day a week, or even a few hours a day to disconnect. Use that time to reconnect with the real world, nature, books, journaling, face-to-face conversation. Replace comparison with compassion. Every time you catch yourself comparing your life to someone else's curated highlight reel, try shifting your mindset. That's their story, and I'm writing mine. You're not behind. You're growing at your own pace. Seek help if needed. If social media is impacting your sleep, mood, motivation, or self-worth, talk to someone. A therapist, a support group, a trusted friend. You don't have to figure it out alone. Next up, we'll summarize what we've learned and leave you with a message of hope, resilience, and choice. Almost there, and thank you for staying with me this far. So, can social media cause depression? The answer isn't black and white. It's not a simple yes or no, because social media doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's a tool, a mirror, a megaphone. And like any tool, its impact depends on how we use it, how often we use it, and what's going on in our lives when we use it. For some, it's a lifeline. For others, it's a source of stress, comparison, and self-doubt. The key is awareness. We need to be aware of how we feel during and after scrolling. We need to be honest about when something online is hurting us more than helping us. And we need to feel empowered to make changes, not because someone told us to, but because we deserve to feel okay. Depression is complex. It can be influenced by biology, trauma, environment, and yes, digital life too. But the presence of social media in your life doesn't mean you're doomed to suffer. You are not weak for being affected. You are not too sensitive for needing boundaries. You are human, and your emotional responses are valid. So if you're struggling right now, please hear this. You're not alone. There is help. There is hope. You are allowed to take up space, to ask for support, and to protect your peace, even online. And if someone you love is struggling, your presence matters. Listen, encourage, don't minimize. Help them seek help. You don't have to fix it all. Just showing up can be a lifeline. Coming up in our closing segment, a short recap and one final reminder for you, from me, with heart. Let's wrap this up together. We've covered a lot today, from the potential harms of social media to the positive ways it can support connection and community. We've also explored how you can navigate it mindfully, protect your mental health, and build boundaries for a healthier online experience. But let's end with something simple, but vital. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all figured out. It's okay to struggle, and it's okay to need a break. If you're feeling overwhelmed, unsure, or if you notice that social media is affecting your mood or sense of self-worth, remember that it's okay to reach out. Take a step back. Talk to a therapist, join a support group, or confide in someone you trust. You don't have to carry the weight alone. And for those of you listening who might be supporting someone else, remember, just being there, listening without judgment, can make all the difference. Finally, I want to leave you with one important message. Your mental health is worth protecting. You are not alone in your experience, and you can take control of your relationship with social media and with your life. Thank you for joining me today, for being open, and for staying with me through this conversation. I hope you leave this episode with a little more awareness and a lot more compassion for yourself and others. If you found this helpful, I'd love for you to like, comment, and share. Subscribe for more content, and let's keep the conversation going. You never know who might need to hear this today. This video is for informational purposes only. If you're struggling with your mental health, please consult a licensed professional or expert. Social media can impact mental health, and it's important to take steps towards self-care and support.